Welcome to Conversations with Dr. Stephen Greer with the World Puja Network, and I would like to thank the World Puja Network for hosting us every 2 weeks on their network to bring you an update. And I am joined today with Dr. Ted Loder, who is our science advisor and board member for the Orion Project.org. Thank you, Ted, for being here.
Hey, good afternoon, Steve. Dr. Greer, it's great to be with you again. We got some exciting news to share today, and I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, there's a lot of breaking news with the Orion Project.org, and I think it's we're reaching into what we hope to be a home stretch on 4 different and perhaps 5 technologies that can transform the world energy situation. So if you want to start, Ted, with a review of some of those.
Well, I'll sort of tick them off 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we can sort of discuss them in more detail over the next few minutes with you. Presently, we're working with a gentleman in Canada from the Ottawa region by the name of Thane Hines, and he is working on magnetic motor technology that is approaching the point where it's self-actuating or self-driving. We've given him a small grant through the Orion Project to build us a prototype. He is presently testing the coils and the various geometries of the system. We visited him several weeks ago in his laboratory and saw his previous demo model that our ideas are based on. Saw it in operation. Bill Costantino and I visited him for a day. And we're very impressed with what he has. He works at the university and has nice facilities available to him and the support of some of the faculty members there. He's been working on this for a year or more, or several years actually. And this is a situation or technology in which, as a motor driving a magnetic wheel with a number of magnets attached to it, 18 of them, as this motor speeds up, there's a series of coils, duplicate coils, one inside another coil, with high current coils and high voltage coils, a combination of these things. And as the rotors and the magnets speed up faster and faster, it gets to a point where the back EMF from the high voltage coil dumps into the rest of the configuration and actually causes the motor to accelerate. And so instead of dragging the way a normal magnetic motor does, which is why electrical generation, for example, in every electric motor in the country, you have to put power into it to make it keep turning because it sort of fights itself. In this case, as the device speeds up and faster, it starts to drive itself, and the amount of power needed to run the motor on this generator decreases and decreases. And he has high hopes, based upon his preliminary work, that it will get to a point where there's enough power coming from the coils to both drive the system itself and have excess power left over. And the calculations show this can be done. It's a matter of doing all the fine-tuning. So that's in progress, and we have a hope that within a month we will see something.
Yeah, our goal, and our goal in doing this, is to get what's called an over-unity effect, where there's more power coming out than going in because it's accumulating power from the magnetic flux field that's in the space around us, or in the space around the device in this case, and then be able to close that loop, meaning that the output power would be able to run the system because it has very low needs on the input, and would be able to then also light up light bulbs or do something. It's not going to be a large demonstration prototype. It's going to be, in the tens to maybe 100 or 200 watts. But the idea here is that if we can prove this effect, it can be scaled up, and it can prove the fact that you can have a electromagnetic motor running from the energy and the space around it, and also do some practical work. And this is exactly what needs to be demonstrated to scientists and other people, so that we don't keep dumping hundreds of billions of dollars into pseudo solutions like clean coal and things of this sort, and biofuels and what have you, which are really 2 steps forward and maybe 4 or 5 steps back. So I think that this is really promising, and Thane Hines is doing this in a very professional and cooperative way, and we're happy that your contributions to the Orion Project.org have made this possible. And this is why we're asking for people to go to the orionproject.org now and make more contributions so that we can support all of these inventors and engineers who are just coming. Just in the last 6 months, there's so many amazing people who have stepped forward and are coming forward to help us. So that's one very promising, and we hope in the next month or two we will have a prototype from Thane Hines from the University of Ottawa to talk further about.
Yeah, I'd like to add one more comment to that, is that Thane feels, and we do too, that his technology is eminently scalable, which means although the prototype, which is just the size of a large bread box, if you will, depending how much bread you have in the house, that is scalable. In other words, a larger rotor and more magnets and more coils will allow the whole thing to become much more powerful in putting it out. But it's also a bigger device and takes longer to build. So it was our strategy on this particular technology is to have the prototype built so we can use it as an experimental platform and easily transport it to show people.
Right.
Now, the second technology that we're looking at, and at this point we can't tell you the name of the group that we're working with, but this is also in another foreign country. They are producing a device that puts out several kilowatts to a battery bank, and using all solid state technology, basically using information from the study of magnets by Howard Johnson and other people over the years, using very strong neodymium magnets, and producing power in the multi-kilowatt range in a small solid-state portable device. These things are preliminary manufacturing is going on with these in small numbers. The Orion Project will obtain one when this first run is completed sometime within 1 to 2 months, and we plan to do some extensive testing on that particular device. And I can't say much more about that at this time because of the restrictions we're under, but that is also very promising because here's somebody who has gone beyond the experimental stage, having spent a number of years working on the experiments necessary to develop this, but is actually producing should we call it a prototype commercial level, producing them in small numbers.
And this initial one is a 4 kilowatt, which the average home in America on a 24-hour cycle only uses 2 or 3 kilowatts, and so this is, of course, you have peak demands higher than that, but if you were co-generating into the grid, for example, that would be enough to meet your energy needs for your home. And I think that this is a very promising breakthrough, and we hope that this will be we'll begin to test this system in the next month or so.
It's also scalable,
right,
according to the people of the company that we've spoken with. And so that's also very, very exciting. So we have multiple. Those are two, as I said, both in one's in Canada, the other's in a foreign country. And so we're waiting for them, and we expect to have a delivery, or at least a prototype delivery, sometime within, as Dr. Greer said, 1 to 2 months. So we're very excited about that, though that's happening rather quickly, actually.
Right, and then there's another inventor that we've been supporting for the last few months who has been working on a type of motor and drive combination system that on first testing appeared to be around 4 or 5 times over unity, meaning that it required about 578 watts of power into it by very careful measurement, and it was running motors that were consuming about nearly 3 kilowatts of power. And so what we're doing now is trying to come up with a commercial prototype of that system, and the OrionProject.org has been providing funding to this inventor, and we're hoping that there will be significant developments with that system. It works on a very different principle than these others we've just mentioned, but they all have in common that they are able to acquire energy from the so-called magnetic flux or quantum flux field of energy around us in space, which we know has been done since the time of Tesla, by the way, and which can be used for real power generation so that we don't need oil and gas and coal and all of that. So this is also a major initiative that we've been working on, spending a heck of a lot of time on. And that's another reason why we need you to help us at the orionproject.org. All of these are, I have to point out that there is no administrative overhead for the Orion Project. 100% of the funds provided to the orionproject.org have gone to research, development, inventors, engineers, etc. There was no paid staff. We don't even have an office. All of us, Dr. Loder, Dr. Bravo, Bill Costantino, myself, Todd Goldenbaum, our webmaster, Raven Nabulsi, who works on many of these projects with us, all of us are doing this without compensation, without a salary, without even an office and a desk. We're doing it out of our homes, and the intent is that until we can raise enough funds to have a few $1 million to have a research park, we feel that we need to at least begin to support through your contributions these kinds of breakthroughs that appear to have promise, because frankly our civilization is running out of time, and while we would like to just say we're going to wait till we have $3 or $4 or $5 million to open up a research facility, the reality is there are inventors out there doing things that are quite innovative that need to be supported right now, and time is of the essence. But the other point is that the Orion Project needs a replenishing of those funds to support inventors and breakthroughs as they come along, and that's why we're making a call now that in the next week we need an additional $100,000 contributed to the orionproject.org to support these inventors, particularly in light of something we're about to share with you about this fourth and incredibly important breakthrough technology that we've just started funding.
Interesting, a little background in this. A number of months ago, we met with an inventor and talking about a solid-state device to produce enough energy to run a household or whatever has been our goal for many years. And this inventor and we talked at length about the possibility of using the Earth's magnetic field and energy that exists between the ground and the upper atmosphere, a combination of electrostatic energy, if you want to call it that, or the voltage difference between the Earth and the sky, coupled with the magnetic flux that continually surrounds us and sort of we move through. He proposed a group of ideas about how to build one of these, and it sounded very exciting. He felt very positive that it could be done, and then suddenly he had other requirements on him due to some of his job, if you will, and was unable to do it. And then
this is the one we talked about at length. Let's be clear about this.
Yeah.
We had talked at very great length that there was a man assigned to the intelligence community and the military who had his work classified. And this man has 5 shepherds, as they call them, in the intelligence community who, while they had forbidden him to discuss his anti-gravity, so-called electromagnetogravitic propulsive technologies because of obvious military applications, that he had been green-lighted and permitted to work with us to build within a 3-month period a energy generation device that would be collecting this kind of energy from the magnetic flux field around us here on the Earth, and that would enable you to run your home and eventually electric cars without any fuel cost and with energy that is abundant all around us. He was given the green light to do that. He came to my home here in Virginia and met with our board for a week, and we had made a plan and a budget, and when he returned to his base, basically some people from outside these 5 shepherds surfaced and basically said, you're not going to do that either, put the thumb on him, and then deported him essentially to Iraq. And this is the kind of outrageous behavior that we need the President of the United States to step in and change. But the point in this story is that we have found a, quote, white world, someone who is not in the intelligence community, who understands and has done exactly the same breakthrough technology on his own.
Which if you start to study it, as at some point in the future you'll see, relates back to experiments and findings that Tesla made, who knows how, 100 years ago perhaps, or in that order. So this is resurrecting, if you will, some of Tesla's technology. And this gentleman whom we just resurfaced, we've met with and talked with him at length. And he is, TOP is going to support him, or is supporting him, to build one of these units for us sometime within the next several months.
The OrionProject.org, you can go there now and see these kinds of ideas and projects. We'll be providing a substantial grant to him and his team. He is in the United States, so he does not want to be identified publicly at this point for obvious security reasons. But he's brilliant. He has done work with in the past with NASA, with DARPA, and with very high tech. He is a physicist and engineer of top shelf abilities. And what's interesting is that I had known this man many years ago, and we had lost track of each other. And over the last few weeks, we found each other again, and it turns out that in the intervening 7 or 8 years, he had been able to take his technology from something that was pretty early and not really able to create a practical device to run a home or a building to something that now can do that. So we have just provided him a grant and a contract from the OrionProject.org in the last 48 hours to do this, and it's very exciting. I think this is one of the most exciting technologies we've ever seen because, again, there will be no moving parts in this thing. This is a you can visualize something that would be sitting that could be outside on your roof or whatever, like a heat pump that would be solid state, and that would be collecting, if you will, the magnetic fields. And it's sort of like, if you will, a 24-hour-a-day solar collector, to give you an idea. If you look at, what a solar panel does, is that it's collecting, of course, is photovoltaic, and you need sunlight. This is collecting actually the rest of the energy that the sun and the earth are bathed in, that are these electrostatic and magnetic fields that are there 24 hours a day. It has nothing to do with the sun shining. And you can actually look these things up in the magnetosphere and all this. Well, these collectors would be like a big battery or sponge, if you want to look at it this way. I'm trying to make it very simple, with these coils and collectors collecting this energy and then causing it to flow into a stream of electromagnetic energy, which of course what electricity is moving electrons, and then rectify it and create, regular household voltage and current, 120 volt, 60 hertz, et cetera, and so on, so that you can run your home on it. And he also has a number of other breakthrough technologies that would allow for the electrolysis of water into hydrogen and oxygen very efficiently because of some high voltage phenomenon that he's discovered that were based on some of Tesla's early work. And he also has devised a means for charging systems. One of the problems with the current solar systems is that the charging rate, and also for electric cars, the charge and discharge rate, and he's increased that by tenfold, and the efficiency has gone up by tenfold to be able to do this. So these are enormously major breakthroughs, and these are all going to be combined in this technology. It isn't inexpensive. The materials alone for all of this is pushing 6 digits. We need everyone who's listening to tell all their friends about this interview. Go to the OrionProject.org and help us provide this funding for this guy. He's sort of I say a white world version of this other gentleman who we had great hope would be able to do this before he was ordered not to, and we need to put protection around him. We're going to have a member of our team go there to provide security as well as just technical assistance for him and logistical assistance. But this is a big effort, and all of us are doing this, as I said, without pay, and because we believe that we need to transform the world from a world of scarcity and financial collapse and environmental ruin to one that can be a sustainable and transformed planet. And to do that, we need your help, and any contributions you can make, whether it's $10 or $10,000, is greatly appreciated right now, and I must say urgently needed. So go to the OrionProject.org and help us do this.
Just to add a comment about that technology without getting, as I say, too far into the weeds on it. These magnetic fluxes, as Dr. Greer suggested, this is sort of like a 24-hour solar panel, although it's not solar, although it is picking up the results of the Sun-Earth interaction, and in other words, the magnetic fields that fluctuate around the planet. And so, unlike some of the other technologies that are, quote, zero point or extracting energy from the quantum vacuum state, this is extracting energy that exists all around us, kind of all the time. Now, if you're having a little trouble with that, think of an antenna on a radio, a large antenna on a radio. It is picking up electromagnetic radiation that's all around us as well, and then it's an electrical signal, electromagnetic signal that your radio or TV then amplifies and makes it into something you can hear. But that actual antenna is collecting energy. Well, that's just a small version of what this is doing. This is much more highly optimized and made much more functional in terms of collecting larger amounts of energy that are available all around us. So it's utilizing what nature has given us.
Exactly what Tesla said. We are actually putting a quote of Tesla up on the website. I don't have it here with me right at this moment, but where he talks about the fact that the Earth and the Sun and the universe are all spinning at mind-boggling speeds through the cosmos, bathed in an ocean of this magnetic field and electromagnetic energy, and it's there for the taking. And this is very, very true. So there's no magic here. There's nothing that's violating any laws of physics. It's actually just acknowledging what has been known for over 100 years as the reality of the energy fields that are all around us, and being able to use really creative scientific minds and processes, which this man is bringing to the table, to capture that energy and turn it into a flow of practical, usable power to run your home or your car without burning dinosaur-era fossil fuels like coal and oil and what have you.
That quote from Nikola Tesla is from 1891. Think of it, almost 120 years ago, a little less. And I'll just, Dr. Greer sort of gave a paraphrase of it. I'll just read the first sentence and the last sentence to give you a feeling for his writing. We are whirling through endless space with an inconceivable speed. All around us, everything is spinning, everything is moving, everywhere there is energy. Then he finishes the quote, the mere contemplation of these magnificent possibilities expands our minds, strengthens our hopes, and fills our hearts with supreme delight.
Yeah.
Wonderfully said.
Wonderfully said. How true. And that's what keeps us going through all thick and thin and ups and downs with this effort. And all of you that have written to us and provided such wonderful support, I want to thank all of you for doing that, because we're really on the eve of a major breakthrough. And I think that what we want to be able to do is get one of these prototypes to a level of robust performance where we're getting a kilowatt or more of power out of it, and show that this is possible, and then put it in front of the amazing network we have around the world in terms of people in business and industry and financial sources, but also in terms of the political leadership. Because, there's $86 billion. This is what everyone needs to understand. $86 billion of your tax money going out of this stimulus bill into quote-unquote alternative energy and related projects, most of which are pouring money down a rat hole. And I think it's time for everyone to take a moment, go to the orionproject.org. We have an automated fax system that we're paying for at our expense, and write a letter to the President of the United States and to your members of Congress, your 2 senators and your representative, and tell them that you would like to see some of this $86 billion go to the type of research the orionproject.org is doing, and that these scientists, many of whom have been suffering in the wilderness, self-funding themselves for decades, need and deserve this support, instead of just dumping it into the coal companies and other make-work projects that are not going to solve this problem. And in fact, one of the leading environmentalists who have talked about climate change and global warming have said that all of the technologies that are currently receiving somewhere in the neighborhood of $100 billion a year in support, solar and wind and these sort of things, are way too little, too late. And in fact, we do not even have an electric power grid to be able to take the solar and wind power and distribute it through the United States. And this is a huge problem because the grid is very old and is collapsing and will take hundreds of billions of dollars to prop up. What we want to propose is let's tear that grid down. Let's bring it down. Let's retire the electric grid of the world because we don't need it. You know why? Because each of you could have one of these energy devices that would provide free and abundant energy in your home and in your car running an electric engine, and you would never have a utility bill, and we wouldn't need to have this power transmitted across big centralized power plants across the grid, which is, by the way, very, very creaky and inadequate, and of course often results, as those of you in California know about all the brownouts you have in the summer when everyone's air conditioning units are run. So the way to get around this is to bring really revolutionary new creative thinking to the problem and not keep creating the solutions or recapitulating the solutions of the 1800s and early 20th century, because everything that's on the table, every single dime of the $86 billion of our tax money are going into moribund ideas and concepts that are from the early 20th century and late 1800s. This is a fact, and none of it is going into this advanced research in physics, electromagnetism, and real science and engineering. And this is what you need to say. You need to put it in your own words. We have a sample of a letter there, but you can make it in your own words and send it to President Obama and let him know that, they don't have to put $86 billion of it into what we're proposing, but it'd be nice if a few million of it went. If we got a fraction of 1% of that. Imagine, 1% of that is 860 million. So 1/10 of 1% would be 86 million. So if half of 1/10 of 1% of what we, the taxpayers, are spending on energy went into this entire area of research, 1/2 of 1/10 of 1%, it would be more than enough for us to open a top-drawer research facility and bring these things out within a year or two, and so that the world would have a true solution to the energy crisis, a true solution and not a pseudo-solution to the global warming problem, all the cap and trade stuff, which is just really a tax scheme and passing the problem around from one company to another. All these things are going to be too little, too late, and we need to express our desire to do, and this is why you need to tell everyone about this interview and get them to go to the orionproject.org. We've already had around 4,000 faxes and letters sent through our system. We'd like to see that rise to maybe 10 or 20,000 here in the next week or two. So go to the orionproject.org and become a true energy activist and express your concern, because it does have an effect. I'm in Washington every week. I meet with people who are very close to the president, very close to the White House, and they've told me you need to get the people who care about this to say they do, because that's how politics works. That's how our democracy works, and you can't sit back passively and say it'll be done for me. You got to step up to the plate, take 10 minutes of your time, and send a letter to the president and to your members of Congress. And also, while you're at it, send a contribution to the extent you can to the orionproject.org, because again, every dime is going to these actual inventors and engineers and scientists. None of it is going to those of us who are actually running this program 24 hours a day. None of us are taking a salary. We don't care about the money. We care about getting this done for the world in a truly selfless way. And so I think that this kind of effort deserves your support, and I'm asking for it. I thank those of you who have provided it in the past, and I'm asking for a renewal of that as we reach the almost 1-year anniversary of the launching of the Orion Project.
If each member of the Orion Project who's already donated money to us also takes the time to send those faxes to their representatives and senators and governmental peoples, it will quadruple the number of faxes that have been sent out. And although we've been able to hand copies of the material to some of the key people, nevertheless, it needs to be a broad-based thing. It needs to be all the members, considering the number of people in the Orion Project who have donated to us already. there should be, and I don't know this for sure, but there should be probably somebody in almost every state in the union, as well as a number of countries around the world. And so this isn't only for the U.S. people. This is also for other members of the government around the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, we're looking at presenting some of these ideas to some international conferences in the coming months, because the whole world is in this pickle together. And it needs to be a global initiative. And we are grateful. We do have a lot of support and people from all over the world, and we ask for that to continue. And we thank all of you who have done that. The other thing I want to mention, and this is a really important concept in this whole question, is we know that these technologies have existed before and have been suppressed. And one of the reasons why we're taking this as a very public approach and putting a umbrella of security and protection around these types of scientists is because this is not a conspiracy theory. This I can prove. I have a document from the Pentagon that was written a number of years ago demanding that the FBI turn over the secret Tesla files that they had confiscated upon Tesla's death. Now, for many people, they think, well, this is sort of like an urban myth. And yet, when we actually got this document, it was very clear that there's no urban myth to this. And in fact, when Tesla passed away, the really breakthrough and esoteric, some would say, physics and electromagnetic engineering that he had done that 100 years ago could have brought the entire world out of the oil age and the fossil fuel early industrial era was confiscated by agents from the FBI and then kept secret. I recently have had a very close friend of a member of Congress who ran for the presidency of the United States in the Democratic Party called me up and described to me that when this person was with the Department of Energy, that they witnessed a facility near the Oak Ridge National Laboratories a storage area where a number of these types of devices had been confiscated and were in storage and sequestered away from public use and public knowledge. We also have a scientist who's out west, and Dr. Loder and I have visited his lab, and he was taken by a CIA agent, a man that I know and knew personally before his death. The CIA agent has since passed away, to a facility in Wisconsin that had been turned into a storage facility, and there were items in there as old as 100 years old that would have replaced the need for oil and gas and coal. And we have these witnesses. Now, I'm going to say something here I have not done yet in the 18 years I've been involved with this, but I think it's time for us to say enough of this criminal enterprise masquerading as national security. We have got to call them on this and call them out on it, and I think we have a president that will be sympathetic to this. And that's why I'm asking today that everyone who is listening tell everyone on their email list about the orionproject.org, and anyone who has been victimized in this way by having their technology suppressed should send me personally an email at the orionproject.org. Anyone who has been with a corporation or a government agency or entity in the United States, Canada, or any other country who has been witness to this and has seen this happen needs to contact me, because we are going to organize a National Press Club event where we are going to clearly make the case through dispositive proof and first-hand witness testimony that these sorts of criminal acts have happened and continue to occur, and that we are going to call for an investigation by a special presidential committee as well as a congressional investigation and the FBI, so that this sort of behavior is stopped and stopped permanently. Because, the people who talk about, well, the free market will take care of things, don't understand that there's this little thing of the multi-hundred-trillion-dollar oil, gas, coal, and financial sector that are the 800-pound gorilla sitting there smashing down these sorts of innovative breakthroughs in science and technology, and therefore the free market isn't working. This is what people don't understand. If the free market had been allowed to work, we wouldn't have had the need for oil and gas and coal after 1902 or whenever it was that Stubblefield and Tesla invented the Earth battery and had it running his farm. And that's all up on the orionproject.org website. Go there and see it. This is not stuff that we're making up. This is stuff we can prove in a court of law. But now we need people to come forward who will be whistleblowers, and there is a whistleblower law which we will invoke and to protect such people. And if you have been with the CIA or the FBI or the Department of Defense and have knowledge of this, please contact us. If you have been with the U.S. Patent Office, as someone we are working with was, who witnessed the sequestering of this sort of technology, that will be something that would be very helpful to prove. If you have been with a corporation, and we have a person on our team who was for a time with the Ford Motor Company, who saw a very innovative motor that would get over 100 miles per gallon, actively suppressed and kept from coming out to the public, we need you to contact us. And when we put a dozen or a few dozen of these types of witnesses together from different time periods who do not know each other, but who provide the same corroborating pattern of criminal suppression of the free market development of science and technology, we can make this case. And I think it's very important that we do this because as we come out with these new technologies, we need to have a lot of public support and official support and protection for the scientists and for our team, and this is how we need to do it. So those of you who know someone who was such a witness and whistleblower, prospectively could be, or who have been a victim of this kind of ruthless and illegal criminal behavior on the part of rogue elements within the government or corporations, need to contact us. I will discuss the case with you personally under the strictest confidence. We will not disclose your identity until everyone is ready to do so en masse and in one time and in one place, which will provide its own power and its own security by doing so. The reason we feel it's very important that we take this step is that as we get very close to having these new technologies come forward, it's important that we give a heads up to the good people in the government, the good people in law enforcement, and to the masses of the public so that they'll understand what has been done in the past to prevent these technologies to reaching their homes and cars, and that we all stand up and say, that's enough. This is the largest racketeering influence corrupt organization in the world that has ruthlessly endeavored to keep these sort of breakthroughs secret. And that also, I might add, that people like this brilliant scientist that agreed to work with us in November, but who was then snatched out of the United States and dropped into some hellhole in Iraq, that this kind of behavior needs the direct intervention of the President of the United States. And we were asking for an executive order by the President to stop that from happening, and that this particular person and a couple other people who work with him, that they be reassigned by the executive order to a white world Manhattan-style project to bring out these new technologies to save the world's environment, to give us clean and abundant energy, to end poverty, and to start a new green-collar economy that will be a tide that will lift all nations and all people. It's time for us to say, this we can prove, and so we're asking for people who have knowledge of this to step forward. We already have a few of these whistleblowers and witnesses. We'd like to grow it from 4 or 5 of them to perhaps 20 or 30, where you can make a dispositive case that would be bulletproof. And when we do that, we will then move forward, and with your help and contributions, we will have a major national press club event where we will then unveil this to the public and to the media, and demand also that the media investigate this. One of the big problems is that the mainstream media, which in many cases is tied up with the corporate entities, have been part of the problem instead of the solution. In fact, a member of the board of Time Life some years ago told me that they had become scribes, taking dictation at the right hand of the king. I'm quoting here. And when this man told me this, I almost fell out of my chair. And he said, basically, the fourth estate has been completely corrupted. And so this is another question, is that we have to keep the media accountable for covering this in a way that is honest and that does not ridicule it and takes it seriously. And we're going to need all of your help to do that. So this is a call for witnesses, a call for people to step up and give testimony and to be whistleblowers. There are people on listening to this interview now who are these people. You know who you are. We ask you to contact us in confidence, and we will discuss with you your case and your evidence, and we will put you together with other people like yourselves and come forward with this information to the public.
One of the methods that the media uses to dismiss this kind of information or this activity is to just put this sort of thing into the category of urban myth and just continue on. This suppression is not an urban myth. Maybe a few incidences are, but many are not. And we've talked to enough witnesses and people who have had this happen to them personally over the years, the last 20 or so years, that we know this is real, and we continually have people talk to us about some suppression that's going on of technology, which, if allowed to come into the public domain, would have made a difference to all of us in terms of energy consumption. Remember that a colleague who we may have mentioned in the past, who worked in the patent office, as well as others, have told us that there are several thousand, 3,000 to 4,000 patents or patent applications that have been seized by the national security state, we'll call it that, under Section 181 of the patent law, and basically put in a file cabinet somewhere, and the inventor, person that submitted the application of the patent, was enjoined from ever speaking about the information again. This has got to stop. There's enough information already invented, already created, already discovered that could get us off fossil fuels and into a sustainable energy environment.
Well, and anyone who cares about, the so-called free market, which we do not have, by the way, and democracy, which we are increasingly losing, and a free press, which has also become increasingly corrupt, needs to feel some degree of outrage at this and say, if we continue to be passive cows, we're going to go to the slaughter. And I suggest that we stand up as one people and say that we have a better idea, that we renew the promise of democracy, that we renew the promise of a free market, a place of ideas and science and inventions, and that we take this oppressive yoke off of the necks of these sorts of scientists and engineers and liberate them from this kind of tyranny. So it is, in a sense, a new American revolution, and it needs to be global. And we will not advance as a people so long as a handful of interests, corporate and financial and what have you, distort the science and technology and the marketplace and what have you, and as well as the media, in ways that create an imbalance in the world where we now have 200 or 300 families who have a net worth equal to half the world's population. That is a true statistic. There are 200 or 300 families and individuals whose net worth is equal to half of all the inhabitants of Earth. And so it's getting worse and not better. And the only way that's going to change, where we can create a society that is just and that allows for abundance throughout not just America but all throughout the world, is that we truly have freedom. And we do not have this kind of freedom that we think we have. This is a canard. It's a mirage. And people are sort of fat consumer cows in America who think that, gee, we're in the land of the free. And actually we're not. We're in the most tightly controlled national security state that has gotten corrupted through these, quote, special interests, financial, energy, oil, and others, that really do not want to see this kind of advancement of human civilization. And their grip on power is now strangling the life out of the earth herself. with the polar ice caps melting and global warming and toxic rivers. And you go to China, and the rivers and the lakes are just these weird colored pools of filth and toxicity. And they're putting one new coal-fired power plant on a week in China that's now dumping about 15% of all the pollution in the San Francisco Bay Area. It's coming across the entire Pacific Ocean and dumping and falling in the Bay Area. And also the Pacific Northwest from China because of all the soot from all those power plants. And, it's just not going to be able to be fixed with the kinds of ideas that are coming out of the Congress and the White House right now. You need to let them know there's a better way, and we need to find the people who have knowledge of how these technologies have been kept from the public to bear witness and give testimony. And we will create a briefing then of all this testimony from all of those of you who contact us, and we will give that to the President of the United States and to the key members of Congress, and we will demand action. And so this is what we must do at the same time as we bring these new technologies out, because you cannot do this within the vacuum or sort of Pollyannishly thinking that, gee, if we build a better mousetrap, the world will beat a path to our door. Unfortunately, history has proven in the last 100 years that when you build one of these things, what I call murder incorporated beats a path to your door. And the abuses of power that have taken place within our government and within corporations and elsewhere is truly appalling. So we need to document it, and we need to call them out on it, and we need to put a stop to it while we're bringing out these new technologies. So this is an urgent call. All of those of you who are listening should contact everyone you know and send them to this particular interview on the World Puja Network and ask people to network and find these whistleblowers. This is what we did before with Disclosure Project, with the disclosureproject.org, and eventually we ended up with over 500 military and corporate and top secret people who had information about that area. Now this energy area is the next big thing to take on, because that's what has to urgently come out to help the world. And we need the people who are going to stand up. And I know it takes courage to be a whistleblower. I know people may be afraid, but you know what? I've been doing this now for 18 years, and I'm still breathing the free air of Earth, and so is Dr. Loder and many other people. And we have a very good security team around what we're doing, and we know what we're doing with this sort of issue. And by the way, when you get, we have friends in high places, and we also have the support of millions of people in the public. And those millions of people in the public, by the way, are the real vanguard, because here's a little counterintuitive bit for you folks who may know a whistleblower about energy suppression, or who've had a device suppressed, or have been in a corporation or government program and have witnessed this, and who are questioning whether or not they should come forward. We've already done this with 110 people's testimony for the Disclosure Project on the most top secret programs in the history of the United States. And you know what? Not a single one of those people got a phone call telling them to be quiet. And I can tell you that we can do the same thing on this energy issue, bring the truth of this out as a way of creating support, and also putting these rogue interests on notice that they will not be allowed to suppress these life-saving and earth-saving new energy technologies that the OrionProject.org are working on, that Dr. Loder and I have described to you today. And we think that we need to do this urgently, because I think we could be within a few months of some of these technologies being mature enough to disclose and bring forward. And we need to be able to create a groundswell of public support for them, but also we need to be able to put these rogue interests on notice that we're not going to put up with this anymore, the kind of threats and suppression and abuses of the law and the abuses of the power of the government and abuses of corporations. And so this is really important that we do this at the same time. And so we're making an urgent call today for people to help us identify these whistleblowers.
I wanted to add another comment about suppression, which takes many forms. One form is the kind we've been talking about, in which an individual inventor has discovered something that's a breakthrough technology, and as the story goes, somebody knocks on his door and says, "Thou shalt not do this," or "Thou will not get a patent, we will take it from you," or they literally get threatened, or their lab gets threatened, or whatever. That's sort of the overt, in-your-face type suppression. There's a second type of suppression that is, there's several kinds, but the second one I want to talk about is a more subtle one that's a much broader placed one, and that is the use of the media to disinform the public about potential technologies. And so when you read an article by some writer from some science writer for some magazine who talks about one of these new technologies and then ends the article with a statement similar to, "Ho, ho, ho, there goes another inventor chasing perpetual motion," or something like that, it creates an air of, oh, here's another silly inventor trying to do something that's impossible. And that sort of suppression works on the broad public.
Well, and the other, and another big one that we have found over and over again. In fact, there's a member of our team who is a senior, just retired senior 747 pilot for United Airlines, and a very, very good man, had been in the military for years. And when he was a young man, he knew a guy who was inventing new carburation systems for motors that were getting amazing miles per gallon. And this was back in the 50s. And the auto companies and oil companies would buy up these inventions and put them on a black shelf. And then he'd come out a few years later with another better version, and they'd buy it up again. The man eventually retired wealthy by just selling his inventions out to the oil and auto industries, which are basically integrated, and keeping them off the market. And this man is no conspiracy theorist. I mean, this is a guy who flew thousands of people around the world on 747s and flew fighter jets before that. And he said he was so astonished. And I said, yes, I've run into many, many people like this who've been given $5, $10, $20 million buyouts for an invention, and it ends up on a black shelf at General Motors or at Lockheed or Boeing or one of the oil companies. And again, this is anyone who has personal knowledge of this happening, which is what we call black shelving of a technology, where a technology is essentially bought up so it will not reach the marketplace, and then it's put on a black shelf in order to protect the oil interest and the conventional internal combustion motor interest and the petrodollar interest, should notify us, because this is a very common way. You know, in other words, you don't need to threaten someone. If you throw them $10 million, they're happy to sell you their invention. When we're saying, well, this is what we want to stop, because the way we have structured the Orion Project and our sister organization, AERO, Advanced Energy Research Organization, which is a regular corporation that can bring these things out commercially and can be funded to do so, would be that if someone offered me $100 billion for one of these things, I would tell them to go straight to hell. Frankly, I mean, I hate to be crude about it, but I mean, no amount of money or threat is going to stop me, Steve Greer, from bringing these things out, and these guys know that. But unfortunately, if you're just a guy tinkering in your garage or in a laboratory somewhere, and you come up with this kind of invention, and you're offered, $5 million, $10 million, $50 million, and you're set for life, most of those people will sell out. And when they do, it ends up on a black shelf, never to be seen again. And this is a tragedy and really a crime against humanity and the earth. So to reverse that, we have to stand tall and say, look, we need to let these inventors know, look, you'll do well by doing good, but don't sell out to ExxonMobil, and don't sell out to Ford or GM, and don't sell out to any other big corporate or financial entity, because even the financial funding venture capital crowd are often very corrupt in this regard.
I was going to add a comment to that. What very often happens in the black shelving is that not only is the inventor offered a chunk of money, such as Dr. Greer mentioned, but they're also told that this company, let's use Ford for example here, no specific, this company plans to use this to help save the world. And so many promises are made. The inventor sells often in the hopes that his invention will do some good, and it's gone.
Right, and of course, once he's given up his rights to it, he has no recourse. So one of the problems we want to do is change that, and this is why we have to create a public groundswell of knowledge around these technologies. And one of the things we're planning to do, the instant we have one of these technologies running in a mature fashion, It will be disclosed very quickly. We'll stream it on the net. We're going to put it on YouTube, and you're going to know about it. And therefore, if anyone came along and tried to suppress it, you're going to know about that too. And we'll eventually have a research facility here near the University of Virginia that will have live internet streaming and security around it, because you know what? We, the people, can provide all of our voices together and actions together is much more powerful than any of these big corporate behemoths. And this is the dynamic we need to acknowledge, that we really have more power if we unite together and act together for change than we can ever have alone. And that's why we're asking you to join us in this wonderful adventure at the transformation of the Earth in this new century. Well, I think we're about out of time, and I'd like to thank Dr. Loder for joining me today. It's been an exciting hour, and I'd like to thank the great folks at the World Puja Network for helping us get the word out about this work and about the great breakthroughs that are being made. And I thank all of you for your contributions to the OrionProject.org. This has been Dr. Stephen Greer with Conversations with Dr. Stephen Greer at the World Puja Network. Until next time, thank you very much. Bye-bye.